In a quiet neighborhood in Nashville, Tennessee, a car parked at the curb began to cause concern among residents. The odor emanating from the vehicle was not only unusual, but also strongly disturbing. How could something so alarming go unnoticed? What would this discovery reveal to a community that had previously seemed quiet? When the authorities found the car, the discovery was shocking. What they saw changed the course of the entire investigation and unearthed the dark secrets of a seemingly perfect family. All eyes now turned to Angie and Aaron Solomon, whose seemingly successful lives became the center of a chilling mystery. If you're fascinated by unraveling the darkest mysteries and exploring gripping true crime stories, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and become part of our investigative community. Let's get to the case. Angie, a woman known for her intelligence and hard work, had built an enviable life. After earning a doctorate in pharmacy, she enjoyed a stable career and a comfortable life. In 2001, she met Aaron, a charismatic sportscaster who, with his ability to captivate people, soon won Angie over. From their relationship, Grant was born in 2002, and although she considered raising him alone, family pressures led her to agree to marry him. Later, in 2006, the arrival of their daughter Gracie seemed to complete the ideal family. However, that perfect image hid a disturbing reality. Aaron, known publicly as a good man, was privately a controlling and manipulative individual. Over time, Angie began to notice disturbing behaviors. He was overly dominant, made unilateral decisions, and constantly minimized other members of his family. But most alarming came in 2013, when Gracie, then a 7-year-old, mentioned disturbing episodes about her father's behavior. Angie, horrified, confronted him, but he denied the allegations and threatened her, using his influence to silence any attempt to reveal what had happened. In 2014, a series of events finished crumbling the facade of perfection. Aaron was caught with evidence suggesting inappropriate behavior towards minors. Although the evidence was compelling, the consequences were minimal. He lost his job as a presenter, but quickly landed a position as a financial advisor, preserving much of his social status. Now that abandoned car became the epicenter of a tragedy that would put an end to the cover-up. The investigation began to reveal how Aaron's secrets had reached a point of no return. How far would the revelations go, and what role did his manipulations play in the events that led to this terrible outcome? In order to keep the family's look of security, Aaron suggested that the couple go to therapy. However, the sessions served more to expose Angie's scars than to find solutions. Her history of a childhood marked by religious pressure and demands for perfection, coupled with an oppressive marriage, became the main focus of the discussions. Aaron manipulated the conversations to minimize his own failings, diverting attention to his wife's supposed weaknesses. Tired of the lack of progress, Angie sought out a therapist on her own. She struggled to rebuild her life, planning every step toward independence. She kept notes on her phone and shared progress via email with her new counselor. Unbeknownst to her, Aaron had installed spyware on her cell phone, monitoring every message, every word exchanged in sessions. His control was reaching alarming levels, but when Angie tried to turn to her parents, hoping to find support, she was betrayed by them. Her mother and father, blinded by traditional values and Aaron's unimpeachable image, turned their backs on her, insisting that keeping the family together was their duty. This rejection left Angie and her children more vulnerable than ever. Tension in the household escalated rapidly. Angie began to take refuge with her children at night in the same room, fearing for their safety. One night, a confrontation in the bathroom turned into a terrifying scene. Aaron, filled with rage, used an electrical cord against Angie. In an act of bravery, Grant, only 11 years old, intervened. He held his father's hands, allowing his mother to escape her assailant's immediate grasp. After the altercation, Aaron took control of the narrative. He called 911, distorting the facts and describing Angie as unstable. She was taken for a medical evaluation, but specialists quickly disproved the allegations, backed up by her psychotherapist, who provided evidence of the abuse she suffered. She was discharged with a clear diagnosis. Backed by the medical report, she filed for a protection order and began divorce proceedings. However, her return home came as a devastating blow. The house was empty. Aaron, in a calculated move, disappeared with the children. He ignored her desperate attempts to contact him. On Mother's Day, the hope of reuniting his family turned into a confrontation with the authorities, who came to her door on new unfounded accusations by Aaron. Although they verified that Angie was in perfect condition, the whereabouts of her children remained a mystery. While she struggled to gather evidence, Aaron had already filed divorce papers and obtained his own protective order in court, claiming that she posed a danger to the family. The courts, swayed by his false statements, turned against her. With no allies and her own parents questioning her stability, Angie found herself completely alone in her battle to get her children back. The court ruling awarded Aaron full custody, leaving Angie devastated. Her arguments about the need to protect the children were not enough for the judge, who considered her prior institutionalization as evidence of instability. The children's voices were not heard. Grant and Gracie were completely under the control of their father, who began to impose strict rules and exercise extreme discipline. Angie did not give up. She turned to specialists to prove her emotional stability and gathered evidence of the conditions in which her children were living. Meanwhile, Aaron hired a team of top-notch lawyers, funded by a windfall inheritance, to counter any attempt to regain custody. During a hearing, Angie's relatives testified against him, reinforcing Aaron's narrative about his alleged inability to care for the children. Despite the testimony in her favor, the judge decided to maintain custody with Aaron. Angie only managed to obtain weekly visits of 2 hours. During the first meeting, she was shocked by the condition of her children. Grant was looking extremely thin, and Gracie had deep circles under her eyes, her countenance reflecting exhaustion. When she asked them what was going on, she discovered that Aaron was controlling their diet, forbidding sweets and applying punishments that included long physical exercise sessions. Grant recounted a terrifying episode. In a desperate attempt to escape his father's control, he opened the door of a moving car and jumped out. Although he resulted in minor injuries, the incident deeply scarred the children. In addition, Aaron had manipulated his children's perception of Angie, telling them that she had abandoned them and that her absence was their own fault. In 2014, Angie managed to increase her visitation time to 7 hours a week after a medical examination confirmed her good health. However, conditions at Aaron's home continued to worsen. Gracie, only 9 years old, began to show signs of being subjected to disturbing situations. She reported that after meals, she would feel a deep sleep that left her unconscious, and she would awaken in her father's room with marks on her body. Aaron justified these marks with absurd explanations, while avoiding taking the children to the doctor, even in serious situations. In 2015, Aaron reported Angie for failing to make child support payments, which resulted in his arrest. Angie responded with a countersuit, revealing that Aaron used the funds for personal expenses and unnecessary luxuries, while her children suffered neglect and abuse. Despite these revelations, authorities continued to ignore the dangers faced by the children in their father's care. Angie, after regaining her freedom, took up her fight even more vigorously. She sought the support of local authorities, community leaders, and child protection agencies, but her warnings were ignored. Aaron kept an iron grip on Grant and Gracie, imposing increasingly severe restrictions on them. The children lived under constant surveillance and faced physical punishment for any action Aaron deemed disobedience. In 2018, Grant and Gracie made a desperate decision. They took advantage of an oversight by their father to try to run away from home, but they didn't get far. Aaron immediately reported them missing, and, after being located, the children were forced to return. Retaliation was not long in coming. Aaron banned them from any unsupervised contact with their mother and further stiffened their punishments, including food deprivation and prolonged isolation. Angie, alarmed by the conditions in which her children were living, filed an urgent request for a custody review. On August 17, 2018, during a Grant baseball tournament, something happened that scarred Gracie forever. While Grant was left coaching, Aaron took his daughter to a nearby hotel. Gracie repeatedly asked for a room with separate beds, but her father ignored her. That night, her confidence was shattered. The next day, during the emergency hearing, Gracie recounted in detail the traumatic events she had endured. Grant also testified, describing the abusive conditions at home, from endless workouts to constant humiliation. Both pleaded to stay with their mother, but their words were dismissed. The judge, known for his connection to the same church as Aaron, rejected Angie's request. He argued that the children's testimonies were manipulated by the mother to discredit her ex-husband. Aaron was using his position within the religious community to reinforce his image as a devoted father. The court decision was a devastating blow. Angie not only lost her claim for custody, but was also barred from filing civil suits for 6 years. Gracie, still traumatized, tried to seek help at school. Together with Grant, she went to the principal to relate what they were going through, but her words were ignored. The principal, close to Aaron, contacted the father to warn him about the complaints. The situation became untenable. Eventually, the children managed to stay temporarily with their mother, but the fear of Aaron's control was still present. Grant and Gracie were able to temporarily stay with Angie. With the help of a psychologist, clear rules for interaction between the children and their father were established. Although the legal agreement mandated time at Aaron's house, both preferred to avoid it, staying most of the time with their mother. These periods provided respite, but the tension with Aaron continued to grow until everything came to a head on July 20th, 2020. Grant, just turned 18, was on his way to baseball practice. The distance between Angie's house and the sports center took him about an hour by car. Arriving in the parking lot, he descended to set up his equipment. Aaron, unexpectedly present at the scene, placed an emergency call shortly thereafter, claiming that his son had been in a serious accident. According to Aaron, Grant got out of the truck to pick up his equipment in the back while checking his phone. He claimed the vehicle began rolling on its own, striking Grant and dragging him a certain distance until he fell into a nearby ditch. Aaron claimed he was accompanied by 3 people and that they all witnessed the incident, although they did nothing to help. Emergency services found Grant trapped under the vehicle, face up and with his body facing away from Aaron's account. They used a hydraulic jack to free him. Although the young man was conscious, his condition was critical. He was rushed to the hospital, where he suffered cardiac arrest and died en route. Doctors recorded significant injuries, but inconsistencies in the case began to surface almost immediately. Angie, upon learning of this, rushed to the clinic. She insisted on further investigation, but the authorities dismissed her claims, calling the incident an accident. Angie noticed that Grant's injuries did not match Aaron's version. The clothing showed no signs of friction with the pavement or heat marks from contact with the engine. There were no traces of blood or biological evidence at the scene. Grant's glasses, essential for his poor vision, were found on a sidewalk several feet from the vehicle. According to Angie, her son was never separated from them. Tire tracks were also found far from the alleged impact site. Aaron, however, refused any technical examination of the vehicle, increasing Angie's suspicions, who relentlessly sought answers while facing a wall of institutional indifference. Aaron's version of Grant's death raised suspicions from the beginning. Nearby neighbors heard no noises, and the area lacked security cameras that could confirm his account. Aaron insisted that 3 people witnessed the accident, but they were never identified. Angie began to examine every detail. Grant always had his phone with him, even during workouts. That day, the device was missing. The young man's glasses, indispensable because of his poor vision, were found meters away from the scene, which was inexplicable. Nor were the injuries consistent with vehicular impact. The clothes were intact, and the shoes showed no signs of dirt. Angie suspected that the alleged accident scene had been staged to cover up something much darker. Aaron's behavior after the tragedy was disturbing. He avoided showing emotion, even during the funeral, where he referred to his son's death as an inevitable event. When Angie proposed inspecting the vehicle to rule out mechanical failures, Aaron rejected the idea. Shortly thereafter, he sent the car to the junkyard, even though it was in perfect condition. This act raised further suspicions about his role in what happened. In 2021, Angie traced the vehicle and submitted it to a technical review. The results were conclusive. The accident described by Aaron was physically impossible. There was no evidence of a failure to explain the car's movement and no damage to support the initial version. Angie presented this new information to the authorities, but was met with strong resistance to reopening the case. Grant, before his 18th birthday, had stated his intention to sue his father and legally protect his younger sister. According to Angie, this plan posed a threat to Aaron, who seemed determined to avoid it at all costs. Gracie, devastated by the loss of her brother, released a video in May 2021. In it, she revealed the strict rules, emotional abuse, and control Aaron had exerted over them. Her testimony ignited a groundswell of support and renewed Angie's fight to find justice for Grant. With her brother absent, Aaron intensified the pressure to return home. The young woman refused and obtained a protective order against him. However, Aaron ignored the restrictions and repeatedly appeared near his daughter, including at school. The principal, a friend of the father, dismissed the existence of the order and allowed Aaron to approach without restriction. This led him to reinforce the narrative that Angie was manipulating Gracie. The Department of Youth intervened, investigating the mother under allegations of negatively influencing the young girl. Aaron filed a defamation suit against Angie, accusing her of forcing him to sign away his parental rights. He mobilized church allies to challenge the authenticity of Gracie's video. When Angie decided to confront him legally, he withdrew the lawsuit, but announced that he would reinstate it with the support of his lawyers. Angie and Gracie launched an online platform seeking justice for Grant, gaining massive support. However, Aaron's supporters attacked them on social media, accusing them of unchristian behavior. Meanwhile, the school principal and the church pastor denied receiving previous complaints from the youth. A classmate of Grant's confirmed that both of them, along with Gracie, had sought help at the school, but were told it was not their jurisdiction. Tennessee law mandates notification of Child Protective Services in cases of suspected abuse, but no one acted. After Grant's death, students were banned from talking about the incident at the school. The church faced internal divisions, leading the pastor to resign after being questioned for inaction. Aaron continued to use his influence, denying all accusations and filing lawsuits against Angie. Mother and daughter, though together, live under a constant sense of insecurity due to Aaron's persistent presence. Gracie, affected by the loss of her brother, dreams of becoming an FBI agent to protect others from similar situations. The platform remains active, seeking justice and hoping that one day the truth will prevail.